What's up, Rapids fans? And on this week's edition of The Rundown, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, the Rapids are undone by the Union. 2025 Leagues Cup is finally here, and then we're going to welcome Calvin Harris for Off the Pitch. That and much more. Welcome, everybody, to the Colorado Rapids podcast and this week's edition of The Rundown, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. I am your host, Mike Ravolo, alongside my good friend and resident Rapids legend, Drew Moore. Drewy, how we doing, man, on this Monday morning? I feel like it's been a minute since we recorded the podcast because it actually kind of has. Well, I'm trying to remember when we actually did the last one previous to Philly, but it's felt like a minute.
Yeah, I think we didn't have a recording last week just because of how crazy the schedule is.
Yeah.
Right now, but I had a good weekend. You and I both went places.
Yep.
I went up to the mountains with the family to camp.
How was that?
It was great. Camping is not my thing, but my family loves it. My boys love it. Obviously,
Good.
Joey and Ryan, they're 9 and almost 8 now, and so going to the mountains with them, sleeping in tents, and did some stand-up paddleboarding, some hiking. Had a bunch of little games, sat around the fire. It's really, this time of year is great in the mountains because it doesn't get too hot during the day. I think a high was like 80 degrees, a couple rain showers a couple times, and then cold at night, right? You're still down into the 40s at night, which feels very cold considering it's summer. But no, it was a good time with the family. I'm not a big camper. My family knows that, and they know that I just that I get through it. But and I know a lot of people are gonna frown upon that. But the mountains are beautiful. It is always nice to get up there. And I was able to watch. We kind of had the match on around the campsite, but I was able to watch it more last night when we got back home. And then we're going to get into that. But you spent some time away as well?
I was with family as well.
Nice.
So I was not on the Philly trip this past weekend for the Rapids and Philly matchup. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the East Coast either way. We're going to go back home to D.C. Got to see family. Actually went to the DC United versus Austin FC game. We're actually caught up with former Rapids forward Diego Rubio.
Nice.
So caught him post game, just chatted a little bit, just catch up with him because it'd been a second since I'd seen him. So it was nice to catch up with a former Rapid and somebody that I'm in touch with every once in a while. And he's doing well. He's enjoying time in Austin.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he's been doing well and just more importantly, see family. That for me, that was the greatest thing, is just to see my family, even if just kind of for a hot second, kind of in and out.
It's always good to see family, especially when they don't live where you live.
Yeah,
so
man.
I'm glad you were able to do that.
Yeah, it was great.
It's been a hectic time, so being able to get home and spend a couple of days with family.
Yeah, I was very appreciative of the fact that I was allowed to do so. So because it's not often that those opportunities come up, because being in sports, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And when you get those rare opportunities, it's very nice to just kind of take a beat, relax, or in this case, travel across or halfway across the country, but just to see family. That was the most important thing for me. So
good.
Yeah, so
I like your kit, by the way.
I was gonna say, it was nice to see the Burgundy boys be the green boys for this weekend.
Amazing.
Showing off these the original green kit. I'm glad I got this because it's hard to appreciate on camera or through the broadcast when you watch the players playing in it. But just some of the little details on it, and of course, kind of the more obvious things that you can see, as we talked about in the last show, with the retro crest and then the green and it's just dope, man. I'm very glad I snagged my kit because it's dope. It's just outrightly dope.
We told you.
We told you guys.
We told you were going to want one of these.
Yeah. So.
I'm going to get one as well. I haven't gotten it yet.
Good.
But because I was able to help out with the launch shoot and stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Jordan Rothrock and his group, I think they're putting a little something together for those guys. So I don't have it in hand, but it's awesome, and it looked really, really good on Saturday.
I got my kid before Club Legend.
Yeah, you did. Well, listen, a legend in the making, all right, deserves the kit just as much.
That's not how this works, Drew. That's not how this works. So, all right, we were able to have some good weekends, it sounds like, Drew. Spend time with family, which is always fantastic. Family first, family over everything. But with the Colorado Rapids podcast, we got to get into the business side of things, right? So we got to look back at the matchup that the Rapids had this weekend, which was at Subaru Park against the Philadelphia Union. The last time the Rapids were out at Subaru Park, at least for Leagues Cup last year in 2024. We were able to get a result there to win the third place match, which got them to CCC. But this is for an MLS matchup. Here, Drew, Calvin won the ball really well in the Rapids side of the field. And then the Rapids go the other way. Hafa with the little palomita, 1-0 Rapids.
Super positive play from the Rapids. In a way, we knew the Rapids would be able to get after Philly in transition while they're opened up, spread out, not able to counter press. And Rafa Navajo, this is what you want from your number 9. He's he's a goal poacher, and he comes alive in the box, a little combination play. Finds Cole Bassett, unfortunate to the crossbar, but Hoffa, Johnny on the spot, and a little bit of style there.
I need to ask Hoffa for some tips on some dancing, because I could use some of that footwork. So Philly, second half, they're going to respond, Drew, with this goal to tie things up.
Well, set pieces and crosses, right? We knew Philadelphia are dangerous, and I mean, especially Ty Baribo. You can't let players, run free, get the wrong side of you, go a little bit untouched there, especially a Baribo who's on one right now, and these are the kind of goals that players that score 15 goals up to this point score.
And the Rapids had been sustaining the pressure Philly was mounting, but 89th minute later on, Mikael Uhre off the bench scores for Philly.
Yeah, when you're able to bring a player like Uhre off the bench. And I just think the Rapids are too passive in this phase, and it takes all the way to the 89th minute. Cole Bassett puts in a really good tackle just earlier in this sequence, and then we were a bit too passive, too many passes and touches that were, kind of unchallenged deep in our third. And good players are going to punish that. And it happens again here, a little bit of, Rapids pushed up trying to get back into it, but Uhre ends up behind our back line. Just, again, is it too passive? We weren't passive, for the most part during the game, especially in the first half, which I know we're going to talk about here in a minute. But, did we just lack a little bit of self-belief towards the end of that match and give Philly a little bit too much respect on those two goals?
Yeah, that a little bit in the end would cost the Rapids, with Philly walking away with all 3 points at home at Subaru Park. Looking through the match stats, Drew, here, before I get your thoughts on the match. Philly with 30 shots on the night, 5 for the Rapids, 11 shots on goal for Philly as opposed to the 1 for the Rapids, 11 corners for the Union versus 1 for the Rapids, and for possession, 59.5% for Philly versus 40.5% for the Rapids. So between how it looks pretty lopsided with the stats, but in terms of also comparing that with what you saw on the pitch throughout the 90 minutes, Drew, what did you make of that match between the Union and the Rapids?
Well, Philadelphia's really good. And there's a reason they're at the top of the Supporters Shield standings. And, yeah, those stats you want to kind of hide your eyes from. If you didn't watch the match, you would just be like, oh, it's pure domination for Philly, And I don't know if that was quite the case over the 90 minutes of the match. Certainly in the first half, the Rapids did a lot of what they wanted to do. They frustrated Philly. Zach had to make some good saves, and Zach was very good on the night. But, it was never like, shot after shot after shot. It was Philly creating opportunities the way they do with their energy, with their compactness. And I do think, Philly does a lot of things that the Rapids want to do in terms of the counter press, in terms of being on the front foot, winning the ball up as high up the field as you want. And so I think you can take a lot of what Philly does. They do all that stuff well, and they're frustrating to play against because it's like we talked about before the match. It's like going into a wasp nest, right? They're energetic. They're, both sides of the ball so compact. They've always got little combination plays with the ball and without the ball. They're always putting pressure on you, right? Putting you on the clock and forcing you into uncomfortable situations. And so I do think the Rapids, when they do go into that mode, because it's not like Philly, they're like that the entire 90 minutes. At least that's what they want to do. When the Rapids do go into high press, counter press, front-footedness mode, you got to have buy-in from every single player and be ready to get after it like Philly were on the night, And so I thought the Rapids did some good things in the first half and just kind of went away from it in the second half. And Cole Bassett talked about it after the match. He was frustrated because he thought maybe a couple times this season we've done really well in the first half and then kind of gone away from it in the second half. And so I think, when you play against a good team like Philly at their place, and let's be real, it took until the 89th minute before Philly were able to get the winner. And so the Rapids should take a lot from the fact that, they went into the Supporters Shield leading, Eastern Conference leading Philadelphia Union, and it took until the 89th minute before, they got beat. But, I think you can take a lot of what Philly does well, and can the Rapids now go and do that when they are in that mode.
Yeah, speaking exactly to that, Drew, because Chris Armas and Bradley Carnell, they know each other very, very well. They know each other very, very well from their time at Red Bull, New York Red Bulls, when they were working on the coaching staff under Jesse Marsh at the time.
Yeah.
Bradley working under Chris when Chris took the helm as the head coach there. So it's a very similar style of play at the very least, if not almost kind of tit for tat in terms of how they want to do things. And as you said, like there's plenty of things that I think the Rapids could look at and be like, okay, maybe we take a little bit of this, a little bit of that from Philly that we can apply here. and find maybe the same level of success, because we know the quality is there. We
Yep.
know the quality is there in terms of all the little things, right? We talk so much about the little things that can make the difference between winning a game, losing a game, getting that result that you're looking for. And then with Philly, I can't recall, somebody had mentioned this, but organized chaos is the way that they describe that Philly plays. And if you look at the way Philly played on the night and really all season, the conviction that they have with their runs, with their movement, with the plays, I mean, like, organized chaos feels like the very, very best way to describe Philly in terms of how they go about their business. It's very difficult to play against a team that not only runs around like crazy, like their kind of heads cut off. They run around a lot, but has the quality to go along with that, right? We talked about the previous iteration of Philly with Julian Carranza, Daniel Gazdak, who's over in Columbus now, those guys. And you would think that they might skip a little bit of a beat once those guys are gone. If anything, it's just continuing what they've been doing for the past few years. Is just that organized chaos, if you will. But like you said, Drew, I think there's multiple things I think that the Rapids can take away from that to apply in their own game, just because of the similarities between the Chris Armas and Bradley Carnell style of play. I think there's on top of that is just the fact that you can walk out of Subaru Park knowing that you were just about there, being able to walk out with a result against a very, very, very good Union side who loves to play at home in front of their crowd.
And I think also, Mike, to that point, there has to be a bit of a maturity level as well, because Philly is a team that makes you uncomfortable and you feel like you're in a different game. It's the Red Bulls of the past. It's St. Louis in their first couple of years under Bradley Carnell. It's San Jose back under Almeida when it was like man for man all over the field. You feel it's a very different feeling, and it's very hard to simulate in training. You only get a couple of days of it because you're preparing for very different teams before that, that don't quite play like Philly. And so there needs to be a maturity level that I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I know that it's going to look different. It's going to feel different, but you have to kind of push past that, and I think the Rapids did very well in stretches, especially in the first half, to push past that. But a bit, there needs to be a little bit more maturity and self-belief in that second half, that we can still get out of here with 3 points, or at the very worst 1 point, when you're just about to get into the really injury time, 89th, 90th minute, and maybe we just this was a good kind of test to go through to have that feeling, but it was there to at least get a point from it, and unfortunately we weren't able to, but it was a good test nonetheless.
Yeah. So I'll ask you something here, Drew, in terms of you just being back as a player. If you're in the locker room after that game, knowing how that all played out, what are you telling everybody in the locker room after that in terms of how to kind of, do you move on for it very quickly? Are there things do you want to take away from it? Like, how do you address that result if you're talking to the players in the locker room as one of them?
Well, I think it's hard because, not actually having been on the field that night and experience absolutely everything that we went through, I'd definitely be frustrated, especially as a defender, because you concede late. But I think you do. You try to take the positives from it. You try to say, hey, we came into the top team in the East and the top team in the overall standings and took them down until the 89th minute, right? We did a lot of what we wanted to do in the first half. We took the lead there. And, I would say, there's things we need to fix. There's little details here. You have to defend crosses better, especially on a set piece. Kai Wagner's on the ball. We know this guy can whip in a good cross. Ty Baribo, you got to mark him in the box on a set piece. You have to close people down. You have to shut an Ura down. He finds this half space, but when he gets on the ball, you have to get in his face and not allow him, a shot at the top of the box there. Just the little things. And I think there's probably some frustration, but there's also like, hey, we were in this match until the final whistle. We didn't go much rather in this position than having been blown out 6-0 like we did there back in 2022. I know we talked about that on the last episode. Again, probably the match that I decided I was going to retire in afterwards. But better in that situation than what we were back in 2022.
Yeah, that's the same takeaway for me. Again, you're disappointed that you don't get any, and you walk away empty-handed from that match. Mm-hmm. But you look at the fact that, like you said, it's just that you were able to sustain kind of the pressure for quite a bit, maybe a little more than you would have liked, especially in the second half. But the fact that you can go into the hornet's nest basically and kind of sustain the pressure until later on when, kind of a very critical moment, you let the 2 goals happen. There's still plenty to take away from that match if you're the Rapids, and again, this showed that you can just take on anybody in this league, including one of the best, if not the best team in the league at the moment. So that is at least a takeaway for the Rapids, especially as we're going to get into in a little bit. it's going to be a busy stretch, a very important stretch, a very difficult stretch with Leagues Cup coming up for the Rapids, with games that are going to come very, very thick and fast.
Yeah, and you're right. Hornet's nest. I said wasp nest today.
It's all the same because that's what Philly does, Drew. That's what Philly does, because it's as we've mentioned, organized chaos, Hornet's nest, wasp nest, whatever you want to call it. It is very chaotic, but there is a kind of a method to the madness in how they go about their business. So, again, plenty for the Rapids to take away from that, knowing that they can take on anybody in this league. Just a matter of following through with little details, the little things as we talk about, right? And just making sure they kind of short that up a little bit. They put themselves in a better position to either at least walk away with 1 point. Who knows? Maybe 3 points is on the table as well, as even at a place like Philly or other difficult places to play in this league. So, yeah, Drew, I think that's going to do it in terms of our recap for Philly and the Rapids, that matchup from this weekend. So moving ahead to a little bit of news that we had, pretty almost like going straight into the weekend with a new signing, or a loanee signing at least, with Noah Cobb from Atlanta United making his way over to the Colorado Rapids. That was announced on Friday, very late Friday. 20-year-old Atlanta Academy product. He's been there since, I think, ever since he was in the U12s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been there, I think, from the start, I would say, with Atlanta United in their academy system. He's a 6'1" center back. In terms of this year, with his contributions, what he's done so far this year, 13 games, 3 starts, 429 minutes at the MLS level. His career overall, played 35 games with 21 starts and 1,977 minutes played. And then, of course, that's kind of off the back of Chidozie Awaziem. He is going back to Nantes, France, getting to be closer to family and some loved ones there, which is that's good to hear. So we, of course, are going to wish all the best for Chido, with especially, even though it was just a few short months here at the Rapids, he contributed quite a bit to the club. So, of course, wishing him all the best, being closer to family and being back in France, back in Nantes. And then a fun little note with Noah, actually. So last year in the 2024 U20 CONCACAF Championship, that he played with our very own Adam Beaudry. So Noah Cobb in the back line, playing as a center back in front of Adam, who was in goal there. So little Rapids connection already there, kind of before him making his way here as a loanee to the Colorado Rapids from Atlanta United. So what do you make of the signing, Drew, as a center back?
Yeah, of course. I think it's an area. Of course, you lose Cheeto, and as you said, I'll echo your sentiments. Wish him all the best. He was, always great with me and did a good job. Big, strong, athletic center back. I think him being able to go back to a place he's familiar with is good as well, and I think he'll do extremely well there. So wish him all the best. But Noah's a young, athletic, decent sized center back, and I think he's going to be used, and this is a good time with Leagues Cup coming up and some of the schedule congestion that we're sure to face. It's going to be important to bring in a body like that, and obviously he's been fighting for games because you see he's been involved with the first team for 2-3 plus seasons now. And 35 games under his belt, 21 starts for a side like Atlanta that like to sign big players and maybe don't quite value the academy like we do, I would say, and that's not to be a knock on Atlanta or anything, but to bring him in here and provide some competition on that back line is good, and it could be a look to the future as well. I know there's a buy on clause, as there typically is on all these loans at the end of the season, and so to bring him in and to see what he's got, and I imagine he'll get some match minutes here. I don't know that. I don't know the future, obviously. But I think it's a smart move, and really excited to see what he can do on that back line.
Yeah. Young, 20 years old, man. My goodness. Yeah, 20 years old coming in. Yeah, that's another body coming in, as we mentioned, with Cheeto going back to not going back to France. And we know Chris Armas, he's not afraid to play young players. So I would say to Rapids fans, again, we can't predict the future and know what the lineup is going to be going into the next game or the game thereafter. Right. But I would say don't be surprised if Chris Armas and the coaching staff put him on pretty soon at some point to play for the Rapids, feature for the Rapids very, very quickly.
Right. I also, I saw Michael Parkhurst, who's somebody that played in the league for a long time, representing the U.S. men's national team for many, many years, said a lot of good things about Noah Cobb. Michael Parker's still involved with Atlanta United there, about his athleticism, his maturity, even at a relatively young age. But, he's gotten some good minutes as a young player, and anything Michael Parker says, I'm going to listen to. And so, to get a good kind of what to expect from him is a positive sign.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yes, that Noah Cobb formally makes his way to the Rapids as a loanee.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, with that potential to buy his contract if that option does present itself at the end of the season. All right, and we're gonna go off the pitch with our good friend Calvin Harris. Calvin, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. I'm doing good, thanks.
Good, man. Happy to have you here on the podcast with us once again, although virtually this time. We got you last year as a guest, but nonetheless, happy to have you back on the podcast with us here for this Off the Pitch segment. Calvin, to start, this year you kind of started, maybe not the way that you would have wanted to with the minutes that you would have hoped for initially, but then you kind of carry on form and took advantage of your opportunities. Talk about staying ready for your moment and what you needed to do to make sure that when the opportunity presented itself, you took advantage of it.
Yeah, I think nothing changed with my process and in, day out. I still train as hard as I can and try and be ready for my moment, as you said. And when that moment came about, it was kind of perfect timing as well, because that was when the family were coming out. And it's funny because my brother actually called that. He said, you're not playing now and whatnot, but you're going to get a chance. And it's going to be perfectly aligned when we come out there. So that happened bang on. So yeah, nothing changed for me day in, day out. It was obviously frustrating at times and tough to deal with, but I know what I can do, and I have full belief in my ability. So when I got that opportunity, it was I just made sure that I took advantage of it.
It's family. It's sometimes it's family. Mike and I were talking. We both got to see family. Well, I'm obviously with my family, but we spent time with our family this week and not being in Philadelphia. But that's cool to hear that. I do feel like you've found some really good form here, Calvin, from the start of matches, which we all love seeing. But there is a difference, right? Isn't there, between coming on as a substitute and trying to impact the game versus impacting the game, from the start? Does your preparation change when you're starting a match versus when you are coming off the bench, in the build-up, maybe in the days leading up to it and in the night before, actual match day? What is kind of is there a difference in mental or physical preparation between coming off the bench and starting matches from the beginning?
Yeah, I think there is. You tell yourself that you're trying to be locked in as well when you're not starting, but it's hard and it's not easy when you're just going to get maybe max 20 minutes in a game to try and change something. And there was a period where I was coming into games around that 70th minute mark, and prior to that it was even later. So it's tough to really get into a rhythm into a game, especially when in a lot of those games as well we were down. So for me as an attacker to come on and try and bring a little bit of spark, it's not easy. But I think as time went on, I just gained more and more confidence in those minutes that I got. So those minutes are valuable, because that was all leading into when I then got the chance to start. And I think I kind of just kept that momentum going, from getting 20 minutes to then getting longer stretches. But in terms of day in, day out, if there's a difference, I would say it's just eating a little bit earlier when I'm starting. When I'm not, you can get hungry on the bench sometimes, when you're not having that same time and routine with meals. So I think that was the only little shift with day in, day out.
Yeah, we got to have those Uncrustables ready in the locker room just in case. But no, that's a good point, because if you're not spending as much energy early in matches, then that was something that would have happened to me as well. You get a little bit hungry, but I do feel like you did impact matches, especially in maybe your last 4 or 5 substitute appearances, which might have helped with you. When you did start matches, like you seem to be really in form, obviously scoring in your first start of the season. Let's talk a little bit about the demands of being a winger in Chris Armas' system, because you guys are asked to do a lot physically, and both sides of the ball. It's all high speed, long runs. Like, how do you sustain? Obviously you just talked about food, but like, what are your demands going in, knowing you could play 90 minutes in this system? How are how are you thinking about that mentally?
I think mentally we know what to expect, and Chris gives us a good idea as well before games what to
Mm-hmm.
expect in that specific game. Like for example in Philly, we knew that they were a team that played direct. It's going to be physical. It's going to be a battle, and we're mentally prepared to go into the games like that. So as a winger, yeah, in the system there is, as you said, both sides of the ball. Um, when we're defending, we're asked to come back and to help out. And when we're attacking, we're the first ones to get the attack going. So it is a high demand, but it also it doesn't fault any chances that we get given. Like we still get chances, and I've still had chances to score goals, and that's the main thing that we want. As attackers, is to have that ability to attack and create and do our thing. And Chris is never one to put restraints on us, for the way we attack, and he encourages us to be confident and to play and to express ourselves, and that's what you want from a coach.
Moving on a little bit here, Cal, in terms of Leagues Cup. Well, I say moving on, but actually, I'm going to ask you to look back to 2024 Leagues Cup, that run that the Rapids made in 2024 Leagues Cup. For us who were just watching or being able to kind of be a part of it, it was a lot of fun, man. But for you guys as the players and as coaching staff, you guys who are embedded in the experience itself, how fun was that run last year?
Yeah, it was really good. I think everybody has that in the back of their minds going into this year as well, that we want to try and get anything close to what we felt last year. So we were away as well for a lot of it, in LA. So it was a good time where we bonded as a team.
And let's staying on Leagues Cup, and I know you've just come back from Philly. There hasn't obviously been time to put a lot of thought into Leagues Cup yet for this season, but we're jumping straight into it here in 3 or 4 days. What do you think the expectations should be for this group going into this Leagues Cup after the success from last season's run?
I think we take it step by step, game by game. And it's a quick turnaround. We've had a busy period as well. Just we've had these last 2 games where it's been a little bit more spread out like normal, but before that it was game, like 2 games a week. So it's going to be the same now going into Leagues Cup, and I think we're just taking it game by game, and hope that we can at first get through and get out of the group, and then see what happens from there. But I think there's no pressure, and that I think players feel. I think we're all excited, to be honest, more than nervous or anything like that. We want to play, and then we get to play against different teams as well this year, Mexican teams, and there's a little bit of a different format with how they're doing it as well. So it'll be interesting to see, but as long as there's games, there's excitement.
For sure, especially like you mentioned there, Cal. I think it is solely Mexican opposition as it pertains to the Rapids, or all the MLS teams participating. But for the Rapids, with Santos Laguna, Cholos Tijuana, and Cruz Azul in LA when that happens, so it'll be pretty fun and interesting experience for the Rapids. Cal, I had one last thing for you here. I noticed some of the kits you have in the background there, man. I noticed the Luis Suarez kit there. There's I think Lucho Acosta on the other. What do we got going on here, Cal? And do you have other kits framed around your place as well?
I've got one of myself, yeah, in my separate room over there, yeah. My little setup. I've got my kit up, but from my first ever start in MLS, first professional game. But yeah, just got a few here: Suarez, Zaha, and then Acosta. They're all top players that I've played against, and obviously Acosta got to share the pitch with him. So yeah.
Well, let's keep it on kits for just one more. I know we're throwing a couple of extras at you here, Cal. I know you've got good style. What do you think of the Rapids? Are you like, you're obviously a kit guy. What do you think of the Rapids' new like OG throwback kit?
Yeah, top. I wish we wore it more. When I heard that we were going to be wearing it for 5 games, I was thinking, just let us wear it every game for the rest of the season. Yeah, it's really nice, and it would have been nice to top it off with a result in Philly, but the kit's really nice, so I'm looking forward to wearing it at home as well. But I've told Hayden as well that I'm gonna be trying to steal as many as I can because I know it's on limited supply. But I'm taking as many as I can, to be honest. I've had some requests already, so yeah, the green looks
You
nice.
and me both. You and me both,
Yeah.
man.
I think everybody, man. Like again, like the original green kit is incredibly dope. As you heard from Cal, like he's gonna try to snag as many as he can. Like, listen, yeah, they're a hot commodity right now here in Rapids land. So, Cal, listen, man, look good, feel good. I'm very much a strong believer in that adage. So with these kits, you guys are always looking good and always playing well as well. So I think you guys are in a good spot. So, Cal, listen, man, we appreciate the time you taking the time to be able to join us here for Off the Pitch, and all the best to you for the rest of the season. We're super excited and super happy with how you've been doing, especially the way you've bided your time to start the season, and now just seeing the fruit of your labor with the goals and the impact that you've been having with this team, man. So thank you again for joining, and we're looking forward to seeing what you're able to do for the rest of the season, man. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Take care.
All right, Drew. It's been a minute since we've done this segment around MLS, just to kind of check in, see what's going on around the league. To start off, let's go to Atlanta versus Seattle. That ended up being a 2-2 draw in Atlanta. Seattle took the lead late to make it 2-1 with De Rosario, not Dwayne.
No.
Osazi, if I'm pronouncing his first name correctly. I hate when I butcher
Sure.
names. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for the help, man. 90+5 when Seattle scored, and they thought they were going to walk away with all 3 points. And that which, like we said, it's hard to go to places that aren't your home and get a result, let alone all 3 points. But Atlanta was like, nah, we at least got to tie things up here at home. And it was a hell of a goal from Alexei Miranchuk. And that was 90+9. So that was quite the game, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there's been like so many late goals in MLS this season. I don't know, maybe like I've forgotten, but it just seems like so many, like injury time. Obviously, there seems to be like so much more injury time these days, and I know that was maybe a point of emphasis within the last couple of seasons, but man, 2 goals, beyond the 95th minute, and Seattle just like they seem to be a team that this is usually when they start to put it together, and it seems like they are, but then they concede late a lot, and that could come back to haunt them. It was an incredible strike from Miranchuk, but again, like you have to get pressure on these really good players, if you want to stop them, and I just feel like you said, they thought they were going to walk away with all 3 points. Miranchuk had other plans. You don't get pressure on a good player like this on his left foot, and he's going to punish you.
Yeah, for sure. So that was interesting match there between Atlanta versus Seattle. The next one is DC United versus Austin FC. Austin FC, of course, a Western Conference rival for the Rapids. Austin got the better of DC out in Audi Field. That was a 4-2 win for Austin. I was actually at that match. I mentioned at the top when I caught Diego Rubio afterwards, a former Rapids player. Austin going into that match, Drew, they'd only scored 17 goals on the season, and then they score almost a fourth of that in one night against DC. So that was a big result for Austin.
It was, and they seem to be a team that is maybe finally starting to put it together a little bit, especially in attack. And they do still have Nico Estevez. This is his first year there, so maybe it was going to take a little bit of time, right? But I don't know. You were at the game. What were your thoughts? What was your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, just being there with my family as we're watching the game, like as you could kind of imagine, Austin was going to have maybe the bulk of the possession. Mm-hmm. DC tried to find moments in transition if they had solutions going up front, if at all, outside of Benteke, who did start the match and played the whole match. It was just Austin showing their quality in the night. Like I mentioned, Diego Rubio, kind of him doing his thing, as Rapids fans would know from his time here, doing what he did here for Austin FC, setting up plays and providing assists or just being impactful with the game overall. And he very much was so for Austin. And, guys like Usuni and Owen Wolf getting on the score sheet. And, Austin, it looked like they had some rhythm. Again, granted, it's against a DC side that's struggling quite a bit this year. They let go of Troy Lesane, unfortunately, their head coach not too long ago, and their academy director, Tony, I can't remember his name, so I'll leave it at that. Their academy director has taken the helm at this point, and so DC's in a bit of a rut, but Austin took advantage of that, and that's when those opportunities present themselves, you have to take advantage of them, and Austin certainly did. And then moving on to the last one, Drew, for our round MLS is Real Salt Lake versus San Jose. That was a 2-1 win for RSL, the Rapids Rocky Mountain Cup rivals. Brian Ojeda got an 81st minute goal. That would end up being the difference for RSL to walk away with all 3 points. And this comes ahead of RSL's expected acquisition of Juan Cruz, who is expected to go on loan from Botafogo to the wrong side of the Rockies.
Yeah.
So what did you make of that, Drew, or anything, the highlights that you caught of, at least from that match?
Yeah, we always have our eye on Real Salt Lake a little bit, and you just wonder, they're getting a little bit healthier. It looks like, the transfer window, obviously, different things happen. It looks like they're going to get this forward, Ruan Cruz from Brazil. So no telling exactly what he's going to bring, but they're going after him, so it could bring some excitement for them. They're getting a little bit healthier. I feel like Emeka Anelli was back in the starting 11 for them, and Diego Luna's still there. I do think San Jose struggled a little bit, in this match, gave up 2 goals that were probably preventable, and so. Did San Jose shoot themselves in the foot a little bit and allow Real Salt Lake to get all 3 points? But regardless, what you're going to get from Real Salt Lake, a hardworking blue-collar team. And if you can, get some of their good players, their top players in form, if Ruan Cruz comes in form and can make an impact, then they can be a dangerous team as they always can.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see where RSL sits when it comes to the second part of the Rocky Mountain Cup matchup a little bit later this season, kind of closer to the end of the season, regular season at this point. So there's still a little bit to go. So we'll see how that looks, how RSL looks, at least once the Rapids face them, and that's going to be over in Rio Tinto or America First Field at this point. I'm old type for thinking it's Rio Tinto at this point.
Yeah.
Man. So like we established, we're 2 viejos sitting on the couch, not just one. So that's going to do it for Around MLS, Drew, because goodness me, Leagues Cup coming up now.
Doesn't end, does it?
It just doesn't end. It just doesn't end. So Leagues Cup 2025 officially starts up for the Rapids this Thursday with their first of 3 matchups that are going to happen in the space of a week, Drew. That's quite the load in terms of between travel, between just regen and playing. Obviously,
tough opponents
against very good opposition.
Yep.
We know the quality that Mexican teams bring, Liga MX teams bring. So it's going to be quite a bit for the Rapids to handle, just in every sense, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's going to take everything they can to try to get results from these matches. But let's go through these matches that the Rapids have coming up. So to start, as I mentioned, Thursday, July 31st at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. The first opponent for the Rapids is Santos Laguna. And maybe a name that some MLS folks might be familiar with. The Christian Dahome is on that roster, formerly of the Vancouver Whitecaps and with DC before making his way to Santos. The next matchup, which will be Sunday, August 3rd, so just a few days later, also here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time, will be against Club Tijuana. And then the third matchup for this group stage, if you will, of Leagues Cup for the Rapids, they will go to L.A. at Dignity Health Sports Park to take on Cruz Azul, the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup winners. That is going to be Thursday, August 7th, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time at Dignity Health Sports Park. So that's going to be the 3 matches that the Rapids have on deck, all against all Liga MX opponents. And the Rapids know very well what it's like to play against Liga MX opponents from their 2024 Leagues Cup run. It was a fun one, I will say. So hopefully the Rapids can try to replicate that, albeit against very good quality sides that Liga MX typically bring, regardless of where they sit on the table. So let's look at how things play in terms of what's the outlook for the tournament, in terms of seeding, in terms of qualification to the knockout stage. So the standings are by the league. There are the respective leagues between MLS and Liga MX. The top 4 from each league will advance to the knockout rounds, and that's considering that you have 18 teams from either league is playing, right? So very few spots up for grabs in terms of making it to the knockout stage.
Man.
Yeah,
That's
so
tough.
At bare minimum, I think you have to win 2 matches in your group stage to maybe have a chance to move on to grab one of those spots. If you 4 for MLS and 4 for Liga MX.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So as I mentioned, top 4 in each league advance to the knockout rounds. In terms of the point system, that has not changed, where you get 3 points for a win, 2 points for the draw, but winning the PK shootout, because there will be no ties.
No ties.
And then 1 point if you draw, but of course lose the PK shootout, and you're on the other end of it. So, and as I mentioned, no ties. There is now, as for Leagues Cup, there will be the 8-second rule with goalkeepers, where if they're caught with the ball in their possession for more than 8 seconds, the opposing team will earn a corner kick. So that'll be an interesting. I'm trying to keep a straight face as I'm trying to explain this, and you're laughing, Drew. But
it doesn't make a lot of sense. But okay, that's what they're doing.
We're gonna roll with it. We'll see how that's gonna manifest itself in this tournament as we see it, not just with the Rapids, but I think in general with the tournament. So that rule will be implemented for this year's edition of Leagues Cup. So again, well, it'll be interesting to see how that rule is implemented overall. Let's look back at the Rapids and their history with the Leagues Cup, Drew. So obviously the first year the Leagues Cup came in was in 2023. That was a difficult year for the Rapids, but then you flip the page to 2024, and that was one hell of a run.
Yeah, it was.
The Rapids made, and it was incredible to watch and be a part of as the Rapids. They finished third in 2025, and they were in the third place game at Philly last year, and that earned them qualification to CONCACAF Champions Cup. So those spots are up for grabs again this year in Leagues Cup. And yeah, that's really kind of that's kind of the big thing outside of obviously the Leagues Cup trophy itself, right? Leagues Cup trophy with spots for CONCACAF Champions Cup for the next season up for grabs through Leagues Cup 2025. What are your expectations of this, Drew? As a Rapids fan, or maybe just as a fan in general of Leagues Cup? How are you kind of managing expectations, or what are you looking forward to going into this version of Leagues Cup 2025?
Well, I think the ball's going to be in play way more often, with the goalkeepers having to get the ball out of their hands as quickly as possible so they don't concede a corner kick. But no, I'll just whatever. That's a rule that they want to implement, and it's going to be implemented in the Leagues Cup, and so you have to be aware of it. Obviously, if you're a goalkeeper, you don't want to concede corner kicks. But expectations, I think. Listen, it's after the run last season, right? What did the Rapids do well besides beating really, really good Mexican sides? And they took it one game at a time. I feel like they really embraced the challenge of one game at a time, right? Like a mentality that we're not going to be beaten. And you can even look at, they lost in Portland in the first match pretty badly, and then they come back home against Leon, and they're losing late in that match. And they have to do anything they can to tie it up, and they do through Hafa Navajo, right? And that sends it to penalties. And even in penalties, there were a couple opportunities for Leon to score to win it, and Zach Steffen makes saves, right? And because of that, we won the penalty shootout and we advanced, and then went on that nice run after that. And so I think you have to embrace that mentality and take it one game at a time. And I think sometimes the grind of the MLS season, which the Rapids are probably feeling right now because it's a lot of teams probably are. It's the middle of the summer. You're playing a lot of games. There's been schedule congestion. Having a little different competition can refocus you a little bit and rejuvenate you a little bit. And even though these games are going to be back to back to back like they were last season, I think sometimes a change of pace is a good thing. But let's make no mistake, we know what we're going to get from these Mexican sides. Technically, very good. They'll want to spread you out. They'll want to open you up. They won't be afraid to hit the long diagonal. They'll have quality all over the pitch. You're going to have to at times, concede possession, concede that they're going to have good players, that they're going to be able to get out of tight spaces, that they're going to make you feel uncomfortable at times. But I think if the Rapids, take it one game at a time and embrace that mentality, that never say die mentality that they did last season, then I think that's a good platform in which to go into this competition with.
That never say die mentality, I think, is going to be so key, because as prepping for this episode, I look back at some of the things that Chris Armas was saying post-game for many of these games that we had here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park for Leagues Cup. You look at Juarez, Toluca, Leon. It took, I think, literally everything from the Rapids players to try to see out these results. Like, get that last minute winner against Leon, see out the PK shootout win against them, get that late goal from Darren Yappi against Toluca to put yourself, to create coincidences, create those dangerous opportunities, right? So that you find yourself on the right side of a result. Physically, mentally, emotionally, that I think it's going to take everything from the Rapids to be able to find results and earn results to be able to move on in this competition and to try to replicate what they did last season. Because again, these Liga MX teams, regardless of who they are, whether you're Club America or maybe one not as well known as like a Juarez, who we did have here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, they bring the quality, man. They're just technically, they're very, very good.
They are, but I feel like with these rules and the ways to advance and the fact that the games go to penalties, like this can be used in your advantage, and it's going to be very hard to advance when just 4 teams out of the 18 teams within your league are going to advance when they're playing 3 other Liga MX sides, right? But if you can score a late winner to send it to penalties and try to get 2 points instead of just the one, that's massive. If you can score a late game winner to take all 3 points as opposed to going to a penalty shootout, that's going to be massive as well. Because like you said, you're probably going to have to win at least two of these matches if not more, with the penalties in there as well, if you want to advance in this competition.
Yep. Let's look ahead to the two opponents. So,
Okay.
so to preview the match we're going to do, or Leagues Cup rather, we're going to look at the next two opponents,
Yeah.
the first two opponents rather that the Rapids have. So that's going to be, as I mentioned, first Santos Laguna and Club Tijuana. So looking at Santos Laguna, they finished 18th in the 2024-2025 Clausura in Liga MX, and then Club Tijuana finished 13th in the Clausura in Liga MX. So, like I mentioned with Santos Laguna, a notable player, or at least someone that some MLS heads, if you will be familiar with, is Christian Dajome, formerly of the Whitecaps and with DC United. Club Tijuana, no one from MLS. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. Joe Corona.
Right.
So he was with the U.S. men's national team for a period of time, and also with the LA Galaxy for a number of years as well before making his way back to Tijuana, his second stint with them. And then Gilberto Mora is somebody to keep an eye on, which...
You might remember that name.
Dude, I would say keep tabs on that name regardless of whether you're a U.S. or Mexican fan, because that's going to be a name I think that'll stick around for a while in CONCACAF circles. He's 16 years old. He just came off starting a final in the Gold Cup for the Mexican national team, winning that final, winning a trophy for his country.
What were you doing at 16 years old?
I was about to say something expletive, but we'll leave it at that. I was going home. What was it? Miles put it best. We were talking about this off camera. One of our producers, he said, if I wasn't at soccer practice, I was going home and playing Call of Duty with my friends at 16. So that wasn't doing anything.
Mora might be doing that.
Well, he's coming off winning a Gold Cup, representing his country. What were you doing at 16, Drew?
Not that. not that. Probably something very boring.
So that's he's only 16 years old. He's going to turn 17 in October. He's a super young guy, but he's clearly shown that he's got the talent to be starting for his national team in a Gold Cup final and winning that. So that's a name to keep tabs on when they do make their way here. It'll be on Sunday. So what do you expect out of these sides, Drew? Anything in particular with either side between Santos and Xolos, or is it kind of what you had mentioned before, where they're just technically so good and just quality sides?
Kind of what I mentioned before. We don't get a lot of time to see these teams, to break these teams down. They're early in their season tournament.
The Apertura. The first part of their season, if you will.
Yeah, and so, they're kind of just getting into the swing of things. But, anytime I play against Liga MX side, like technically they're going to be very sound, right? They're going to be deep. They're going to be good at every single position. There's not going to be a weak spot on that field, and they're going to want to open you up a little bit more than maybe MLS side. Right? We just played against a Philadelphia side that are tight, compact on both sides of the ball. Right? When Liga MX teams get on the ball, they're going to want to try to open you up a little bit, hit the long diagonals, get you isolated into space, so that they can play through the spaces that you've opened up. And so I think that's one thing that you're going to have to look for from all three sides. Can you be good in transition? Can you be clean on the ball? Can you defend compact and with numbers and allow them to have the ball a little bit more, right? Which no problem, as long as you're defending organized and communicating and being disciplined. But they're also going to play for 90 plus minutes, right? Liga MX side are not going to, you take a 1-goal lead, you take a 2-goal lead, you're not safe, right? Because they can get momentum going, they can get belief going, and until that final whistle goes, they're going to be in these matches. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think obviously the run last year was a blast. There was a lot of games here against Liga MX sides at home, which was a lot of fun. Santos Laguna and Club Tijuana, maybe they finished towards the bottom of the Clausura last season, but it doesn't really matter. This is a different competition, a new season. I'm looking forward to it.
It's fun, I think, regardless of where you sit, of just being able to see a different type of football come into here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park and watch what the Mexican teams, the Liga MX teams bring. As you mentioned, it is a little different to MLS in terms of how they go about their business. And that's actually fun to watch, is to kind of see how these two teams from different leagues match up against each other, especially two leagues that are kind of rival leagues, but kind of partners, if you will, as well, right? With a lot of the things they do. You look at the MLS All-Star game, with the Liga MX All-Stars versus MLS All-Stars, and a lot of things, just that strong association that the two countries and the two leagues have together in a footballing sense. So it's going to be exciting. I think more than for me, the overwhelming sentiment is that it's going to be exciting to see Liga MX teams here again at Dick's Sporting Goods Park and see the challenge that they bring, and hopefully that the Rapids are walking away with all 3 points.
And the atmosphere is always fun. Like Liga MX teams are
yeah.
so well supported. Yeah. Every single one of them, I guarantee it, Santos Laguna will come with a lot of fans. There'll be a lot of green in the stands in that match. And Club Tijuana will be the same. The Liga MX seems very well supported, very passionate fans. And so the atmosphere kind of takes on a different level. And I do feel like this, the way the competition is set up, it does kind of pit MLS against Liga MX a little bit more because you're not playing against, at least in the group stages, against teams from within your domestic league. And so that's kind of a fun element. But I guarantee you the atmosphere is going to be a blast as well.
So obviously this is us looking into Leagues Cup 2025. And but I wanted to actually ask you, like, what your favorite memory or memories even from 2024 Leagues Cup, because I think there's a lot to pick from, Drew. I'll kick things off for us and say, again, there's so many to pick from, but for me, I was just watching the back, like I said, as I'm prepping for this episode, I was watching back like highlights and just a bunch of stuff just to get ready. And the one thing that really gives me goosebumps even thinking about it is Yapi's goal, the last minute goal against Toluca, where it's just creating a coincidence, putting themselves in a position where they just create danger, force Toluca in that position to. The defender slides in, tries a slide tackle, just gets past him where it doesn't make good enough contact. Yep, he's there to finish, and that's it. That's the game. And the way the crowd just reacted, it wasn't a cheer, it was a roar. It was a general roar from the crowd that I could feel, because I'm field level, and so it's a little different in terms of how you consume that sound. Feel it, yeah. That I could feel it just like overwhelm me, even if that's the right way of putting it in terms of how I felt it was. So you hear the crowd roar after Yapi scores that goal, and that basically seals the deal against what was a very, very good Toluca side that has Marcel Ruiz, Alexis Vega, Jesus Gallardo, like Mexican national team players, and the Rapids were able to cross the finish line and see out a result against a very good Toluca side.
Yeah, I think for me, and that was obviously fun. I was actually on the radio call for that match, so that was cool. And I will be for our home matches here this season as well for the Leagues Cup. For me, it was the celebrations after the Club America penalty shootout victory, when that went 10 rounds deep. Was pretty incredible. And I think we talked about this on the podcast afterwards, because I didn't travel to that match, and we're kind of early to bed people at my house, right? And that match went late into the night because it was on the West Coast anyway, and then it went into penalties. And to watch this, everybody was asleep in my house up to that point. All my lights are off. I've got the TV on. I'm in bed, and I'm struggling to stay quiet. My wife Shelby's sleeping next to me. Try not to wake the boys up down the hall. But to watch the celebrations on the pitch, just everybody. And you were at the match, right?
I was not at that match.
You were not at the match.
I was not at the match.
You could see everybody that travels on a match day down on the field within about 60 seconds celebrating with the entire team, which is not normal, right? Usually, during regular season matches, everybody kind of does their own thing, whether even if you win late or whatever, it's exciting and stuff. But to see everybody go and celebrate, trainers, administrators, everybody was there was really, really cool. I was jealous not to be there in that moment, but it also shows what a team can do, coming together and embracing, kind of being the villains. And I would love to see that again.
It was great because it was mini Azteca, if you will, with the sea of yellow you saw there at Dignity Health Sports Park for that match, and the fact that we were the villains in a sense, right? That we got that result, that the Rapids were able to walk out victorious over Club America. This is one of the biggest, if not maybe the biggest team in CONCACAF at the club level.
I think probably so.
To get a result like that, that's a moment in Rapids history. I remember, when I was at home watching, and I was jumping and yelling and could not believe that that the Rapids were able to get that result. But they found a way. They emptied the tank, as Chris Armas likes to say, physically, mentally, emotionally. It took everything. But they did it. Yeah. They did it, and that was a hell of a moment.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And listen, because I know Leagues Cup 2024 is very memorable for a lot of folks. So, if you guys have a memory or something, comment in the YouTube, in the comment section on YouTube.
Let us know.
Let us know, what stuck out to you, why it stuck out to you. Where were you when you saw the Rapids win against Club America, or here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, the last minute winner, or the tying goal that Hoff against them. There's so many memories to pick from. So just drop a comment, let us know what was your favorite memory from 2024.
Maybe Georgi Mihailovic getting into the camera after that match, telling everybody.
I forgot about that.
Telling everybody what he thought
replicate it
about.
right? No, I'm not going to replicate that. So I don't want to get in trouble.
Up the Pids.
that was a hell of a moment too. On top of the fact of getting that result against Club America, so many moments. So yeah, just drop your memories in the comment section on YouTube. Let us know what was your favorite memory from 2024 Leagues Cup, because it was a hell of a run for the Rapids, and hopefully they'll replicate it in 2025. But of course, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And just a quick reminder for you guys that at least for the first two upcoming matches for the Rapids in Leagues Cup 2025 to kick things off, we're going to start off on Thursday, July 31st against Santos Laguna. That's here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park at 7:30 p.m. That Mountain Time kickoff. Then again, back at Dick's Sporting Goods Park on Sunday, August 3rd. Very quick turn, Drew. Very quick turn. Sunday, August 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. The Rapids take on Club Tijuana. So those will be the first two matchups that the Rapids have for Leagues Cup before they go to LA to take on Cruz Azul. But we will preview that match in the next pod coming out in a week's time or so. Final thoughts, Drew, before we get going? We had covered quite a bit today.
We did, yeah.
It was quite a bit.
It was fun though, and it's just it was like some different stuff with the with Leagues Cup now, and
8-second rule.
Transfer windows open, and the 8-second.
I just want to get a rise out of you. That's all.
I just listen. Will that get the ball back and play more? I don't know, but we're gonna find out, aren't we? We're gonna find out.
I'm just gonna stand next to you because you're on the radio call. No, I believe.
Yeah.
So all right, I'm not gonna work that game. I'm just literally just gonna stand next to you and see how you react to any time the 8-second rule is potentially implemented in the next two games.
Yeah, I hope. Well, like I said, nobody knows.
I'm just pushing your buttons at this point, Drew. So that's gonna do it for us. Quite a packed show with quite a bit to cover. Quick turn, not Saturday, Thursday. Thursday. Keep in mind that it's Thursday that we got a match here. So of course you can tune in on MLS Season Pass. But like I always say, you're better off coming here to Dick's Sporting Goods Park again. It's gonna be a slightly different environment with more Mexican fans, our Mexican friends joining us for these experiences for this. That is Leagues Cup 2025. So that is Santos Laguna on Thursday, and then very quickly a few days later on Sunday that it is Xolos of Tijuana. So that'll do it. That's going to do it for this episode of the Colorado Rapids podcast. My thanks to the production crew, Rich and Miles, and of course my good friend and resident Rapids legend, Drew Moore. I've been your host, Mike Ravolo. We will see you guys on the next podcast, looking ahead to the last match for the Rapids against Cruz Azul, or looking ahead to that match that they have in LA. But until then, enjoy, and we'll see you guys here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park for Leagues Cup.